So the first thing we'll try to estimate is Rayleigh-Jeans law from Planck's law. Now we can write Planck's law or Planck's formula either in terms of frequency or in terms of wavelength. We can write Planck's formula either in terms of wavelength or in terms of frequency. You can start from anyone. So here I am starting with wavelength formula. That means the energy density corresponding to the radiation of wavelength between lambda to d lambda can be written as 8 pi hc by lambda to the power 5 1 by e to the power hc by lambda kt minus 1 d lambda. That is our Planck's formula in terms of wavelength, because here we are writing it in terms of wavelength only. Now think, what is our goal? Our goal is to derive Rayleigh-Jeans law. And we know another thing about Rayleigh-Jeans law, that Rayleigh-Jeans law is very applicable only in the higher wavelength region. If you remember, when you talk about Rayleigh-Jeans law, we have said that Rayleigh-Jeans law is valid only in the higher wavelength region. That means in the higher wavelength region, the theoretical prediction given by Rayleigh-Jeans completely in agreement with the experimental data. It fits well with the experimental curve only in the higher wavelength side. But in the lower wavelength region, Rayleigh-Jeans law is not at all applicable. Therefore, we'll use this concept. That means the point is Rayleigh-Jeans law is valid when wavelength is large. Wavelength is large. Then only Rayleigh-Jeans law can be applicable. Okay. Now you closely look at the Planck's formula. Whether you have written it in terms of wavelength or in terms of frequency, you have this term e to the power something minus 1. In terms of frequency, it is e to the power h nu by kt. In terms of wavelength, it is hc by lambda kt minus 1. Okay. So what is this quantity now? We know any exponential quantity, like say e to the power x, is actually contains so many terms. That means if I expand e to the power x, it looks like 1 plus x square by factorial 2. If you remember your class 12 math, sorry, x cube by factorial 3 and so on. If I expand e to the power x, then this is the series. Now if x is very small, if x is very small, that means it is in fraction, of course. X is a very small quantity. Then what about x square by 2? It is also very small. What about x cube by factorial 3? Also very small. So all the quantities from this point onward will be very, very small. Even we can neglect them so that e to the power x can be written as just 1 plus x. When can we write it? Only when x is very, very, very small. Then we can neglect the higher order terms so that e to the power x can be simplified as 1 plus x. Clear? Why I am saying so? Because we are interested in Rayleigh-Jeans law, and Rayleigh-Jeans law is applicable for larger wavelength side. Now if larger wavelength side means lambda is high, so what about hc by lambda kt, this quantity? Lambda is very high, so 1 by lambda is very small. That means hc by lambda kt is a very small quantity. Therefore, we can expand this e to the power something into this form, just like this one. So the first quantity 1 plus x means here hc by lambda kt plus half hc by lambda kt square and so and so. Now, as we have mentioned earlier, that if x is very small, that means if hc by lambda kt is very small, then we can neglect the higher order terms. That means the points, all the quantities from this point onward can be neglected if hc by lambda kt is very small. And indeed, it is very small because we are only interested where lambda is very large. Therefore, all these quantities can be neglected, so we can write it as this 8 pi hc by lambda to the power 5. Now we are only retaining up to this, so 1 plus hc by lambda kt plus etc. Forget about this one, minus 1. Now this one cancel out, so leaving behind only hc by lambda kt. So 8 pi hc by lambda to the power 5, this one, into lambda kt by hc d lambda. Again hc cancel out, lambda 4. So we have only 8 pi kt by lambda to the power 4 d lambda. So this is the Rayleigh-Jeans law in terms of wavelength. Here what we have estimated, the energy density within the wavelength range lambda to d lambda, lambda to lambda plus d lambda. Within this range lambda to lambda plus d lambda, this is the energy density for Rayleigh-Jeans law. Energy density means energy per unit volume. Now if in the question you are asked estimate Rayleigh-Jeans law, find out Rayleigh-Jeans law, derive Rayleigh-Jeans law, then this is your answer. But if the question is derive the intensity distribution of Rayleigh-Jeans law, they have specifically mentioned intensity distribution, not the energy density. This is our energy density. This is energy density that we have derived. But if the question is intensity distribution, find out the formula for intensity of Rayleigh-Jeans law. Then remember, we have actually plotted intensity. Whatever graphs we have seen, that was for intensity. So how will you go from energy density to intensity? The change is very simple. Just remember that how we are writing in intensity for a particular wavelength lambda, E lambda. We have used this nomenclature. You can write any other thing, but for our class, I'm using the same nomenclature throughout. So this is E lambda. E lambda means we are saying energy, intensity of radiation at wavelength lambda. Now, if we want to estimate this value, what you will do? Just remember that we need to multiply c by 4 with u lambda. C is velocity of light in free space. So you need to multiply only this quantity c by 4 with u lambda. Then you will get the intensity. So u lambda you have already estimated. So just put the value. So 4, 8 cancel out. So 2 pi c kt by lambda to the power 4. That is your answer. So if you are asked that derive Rayleigh-Jeans law, then the derivation of u lambda will be sufficient. But if you are specifically asked to estimate intensity, then you just multiply c by 4 with u lambda. That will be sufficient. So it's just a single step. What you have to remember, that for Rayleigh-Jeans law is applicable only for higher wavelength side, and when lambda is large, then if we expand e to the power something, then all the higher order terms can be cancelled, and our calculation will be much simplified. Similarly, we can derive Wien's radiation law from Planck's law. We use the same formula. So we are, in the previous case we have used wavelength formula. So here also I am using the wavelength formula. So it is 8 pi hc by lambda to the 5, 1 by to the power hc by lambda kt minus 1 d lambda. That is the Planck's law in terms of wavelength. Now we want Wien's radiation law. Again, think where Wien's radiation law is applicable. Wien's radiation law is applicable when lambda is small. For smaller wavelength region. Remember, Rayleigh-Jeans law is applicable for larger wavelength region, whereas Wien's radiation law is applicable only for the smaller wavelength region. So lambda should be small, then only Wien's radiation law is applicable. Otherwise, you cannot use Wien's radiation law. Now, observe it carefully. Again, in this part, e to the power hc by lambda kt, if lambda is small, if lambda is small, small means very small, because you are talking about electromagnetic spectra. So lambda small means Hc by lambda kt will be very large. If Hc by lambda kt is very large, then e to the power Hc by lambda kt is also very large. It is so large that we can neglect 1 with respect to this large quantity. That means whether you are subtracting 1 from a very, very large quantity, the value almost remains same. That means suppose you are subtracting 1 from 10 lakh. Does it matter if we subtract 1 from 10 lakh? So we can easily neglect this one. That means we can, instead of writing e to the power Hc by lambda kt minus 1, we can write only e to the power Hc by lambda kt. Then our formula will be only this 8 pi Hc by lambda to the power 5. We have neglected 1, so it is 1 by e to the power Hc by lambda kt. We can write it in this way also. Instead of writing 1 by e to the power something, we can directly write e to the power minus of something. That one. So this is your Wien's radiation law. Just a single line. This is your Wien's radiation law. So only the concept we have used, that where Wien's radiation law is applicable only at the lower wavelength side. That is the most important part. Just like in the previous case, we have used the concept that Rayleigh-Jeans law is applicable only for the higher wavelength side, larger wavelength side. Again, if you are asked that find out the intensity value as per Wien's radiation law, then we know that E lambda is related with, that means the intensity is related with energy density by C by 4. You just need to multiply C by 4 with U lambda. C is again velocity of light in free space. That is 3 into 10 to the power 8 meter per second, you know. So if we multiply this, we get this value. You need not to remember the expression. The point is, you observe here the whole quantity 2 pi hc square. All the quantities are constant. So I can say that this is a constant, say A. Lambda variable, temperature variable, because we have observed that with temperature intensity changes, with wavelength intensity changes, so they are the variables. But what about hc by k? This is also a constant. Planck's constant, c velocity of light constant, k Boltzmann constant, all are constant. So I am writing it another name, say B. You can give any name. Therefore our simplified form is A by lambda to the power 5 e to the power minus B by lambda t. That is your Wien's radiation law, generally written as A, B are two constants. A, B are the two constants. So here I am not asking you to remember the expressions of Rayleigh-Jeans law or Wien's radiation law. The point is, you need to know that these two formula, Wien's radiation law or Rayleigh-Jeans law, can be derived from Planck's law. Then if you can derive it in 2 steps, why do you need to remember them? If in the question paper it is asked, you will derive it at that time. No need to remember those things. So these are our analytical calculations. This covers all the analytical calculation in black body radiation. Now we'll try to apply them with the help of numerical problems. Let's do it. The first one, say, it says that a 5 kilowatt radio transmitter operates at a frequency 500 kilohertz. Find the number of photons it emits per second. What is given? First of all, the frequency of radiation is given. A radio transmitter has a power. So this is the output power of the radio transmitter that is supplied. So power is supplied because it is kilowatt. We know what is the unit of power. Power means energy per unit time. So that is supplied, and it is saying that this radio transmitter is transmitting some electromagnetic wave. Of course, that electromagnetic wave is actually received by your receiver radio at home. and the frequency of operation is 500 kilohertz. So from this two knowledge, you have to estimate the number of photons. Now, whenever photon is said, then first thing that comes into our mind is what is the energy of the photon? Energy of the single photon. We know that smallest amount of energy, smallest amount of light energy possible as per Planck's law is h nu. So energy of a photon is nothing but h nu. The energy of a single photon, energy of a single photon, energy of a single photon is h nu, E equals to h nu. The smallest value of light energy, smallest value of energy of any electromagnetic wave. So it is h nu. Now h, remember the h value 6.626 into 10 to the power minus 34 joule second. So h value is this is the value of h. Next nu is supplied 500 kilohertz, 500 kilohertz. So we need to write it in terms of SI unit. That means in terms of hertz only. So 500 into 10 to the power 3. So this is the energy of a single photon. So this amount of joule. Okay. Now the question is that you need to find out the number of photons emitted. Now if assume that n is the number of photons emitted per second. In 1 second, the transmitter emits n number of photons. In 1 second, the transmitter emits n number of photons. And each photon has an energy E. So what is n into E? Anyone, please tell me what is n into E? N is the number of photons emitted by the transmitter per second, and E is the energy of a single photon. So what is n into E? If I multiply these two quantities?
The total energy.
Total energy, please try again, think of it again. N is the number of photons emitted per second, and E is the energy of a single photon. Think again, you are on the right track.
Energy of all the photons emitted in 1 second.
Right, very good. N into E is the total energy of the photons emitted per second. Because how we are defining n? N is the number of photons emitted per second, and each carries energy E. So total energy, just multiply them per second. So n into E is the total energy emitted per second. And how do we call energy per second? What is energy per second? Power.
Power.
Right, very good. So whenever n into E is multiplied, n and E are multiplied, what you get is actually power, and power is supplied. So we just put it in the formula. So power is 5 kilowatt, that is 5 into 10 to the power 3 watt. So P is now known, E is known, calculate n. N will be then P by E. P is 5 into 10 to the power 3 because 5 kilowatt. E you have already estimated, put the value and get the result. So this is your number of photons emitted per second. Very simple. Only use your concept. You know everything here. Do it in the same thing. I'm just twisted the question. It is a household device, an incandescent bulb. It says that in converting electrical energy to light energy, a 60 watt incandescent bulb operates at about 70% efficiency. Assuming that all light is green, determine the number of photons emitted per second by this bulb. Similar question. What is the difference? In the previous one, frequency was supplied. In the previous question, frequency was supplied. But in this question, the wavelength of the light emitted, that is supplied. Wavelength is supplied. No problem. We know energy of a single photon, whether it is a light photon or any electromagnetic wave, we don't bother. We know energy of a single photon is h nu, or hc by lambda. Because frequency and wavelength are inversely proportional to each other and they are related by lambda into frequency, the wavelength into frequency is velocity of light. That is mu equal to c by lambda. Lambda is known, hc constants you know, that means energy of a single photon is known, no problem, just like the previous case. But there is a twist here. It says that in converting electrical energy to light energy, 60 watt incandescent bulb operates at 70% efficiency. What does that mean? This is your actual a bulb. How a bulb is operated? You supply some electrical energy. That means you connect it with some wire and supply some electrical energy. That electrical energy is converted into the light energy, and then the bulb shines. This bulb emits radiation in all directions. So you are supplying some electrical energy, and that electrical energy is actually converted into light energy. But the point is, whatever electrical energy you supply, practically that whole energy is not converted into light energy. And how much input energy is actually converted as output energy depends on the efficiency of that device. That's why whenever you want to buy a household device, efficiency matters. So here the incandescent bulb has 70% efficiency. That means if you supply 1 joule of electrical energy, then only 0.7 joule will be converted into light energy. 0.3 joule is lost in other process. It is not converted into light energy. So that is the efficiency. That means whatever energy you are supplying, actually, like here you are supplying 60 watt electrical energy. That energy you are supplying, but 60 watt is not actually emitted as light energy. Some part is lost. What amount of energy is emitted? 70% of 60 watt will be emitted as light energy. That is given here, and that is actual case. This is the practical case. That whatever energy you actually supply as input, that whole energy cannot be converted into the output energy. 100% efficiency is not possible. But for some calculations, we always assume it for simplicity. But here in this question, I want to mention it. That's why I have given it. So energy of a single photon, hc by lambda. H, you know, C, you know, lambda 555 nanometer. 555 nanometer means 10 to the power 9, 10 to the power minus 9 meter. 1 nanometer means 10 to the power minus 9 meter. So you convert it, everything in SI system, calculate it, you get the value of E. Then the next thing you require, same thing, power, because if we want to say estimate the number of photons per unit time per second is n is the number of photons per second. If we multiply with energy E, what we get? Total energy per second, that is power, same as before. E is already calculated, we need to estimate P now. Now P is 60 into 0.7, because as I have said that 70% is the efficiency. So this is the total energy actually radiated. Though you have supplied 60 joule of energy, 60 watt power, 42 is actually used as output power. So again, put the value of P and E and get N. So N will be your total number of photons emitted per second. So N is the total number of photons emitted per second. Okay. So same question, only efficiency is added to this. Now the third type. Actually, it is the second type, the third problem. It says an electrical heater emits 1500 watt of thermal radiation. You observe in all the cases, power is supplied, because if you look around, all your devices, all the electrical devices have the power. That means energy per second that is supplied generally, instead of intensity or energy. Now, assuming that coil of the heater radiates like black body, determine its temperature. That is the question. Now, hopefully you have your copy. Note it down that whenever we are dealing with numerical problems, three types of problem may arise. In one type, the question will be determine energy, determine intensity, or determine energy density for a particular frequency range or wavelength range. The first type of problem that will be given to you, can be given to you, is you need to estimate energy or intensity or energy density or power, whatever. That means anything related to energy for a certain frequency range or wavelength range. For a certain frequency range or wavelength range. That means, suppose the question is within wavelength 3000 angstrom to 3050 angstrom, find out the power. For that type of problem, you can use Planck's law. Or if you know that this wavelength is in the lower wavelength side, use Wien's radiation law. If you know it is in the higher wavelength side, Rayleigh-Jeans law. Or if you do not know whether it is in the lower or higher wavelength side, just use Planck's law. So my point is, whenever range is supplied, frequency range or wavelength range, then you need to use Planck's law itself. When total energy is supplied, that means wavelength range or a certain wavelength is not mentioned, total energy is supplied, total intensity is supplied, total power is given, totality is given. That means the value which is supplied or need to be calculated doesn't depend on the wavelength. That means it covers all wavelength or all frequencies. Stephen's law or Stephens-Boltzmann law, whatever you say. That is E equal to sigma T to the power 4. E was the intensity and T was the temperature in absolute scale. That formula, because this is the formula where totality comes. That means it doesn't bother about a particular wavelength region or particular frequency region. It covers all frequency or all wavelength for a particular temperature. So only the two things here is temperature and total power, total intensity or total energy. This is another type. Third type is where temperature is given, or temperature you have to estimate, whatever, and wavelength corresponding to maximum intensity is given, and wavelength corresponding to peak is supplied. That means there will be two quantities involved. One, the temperature, another, the wavelength corresponding to peak. That means you need to use Wien's displacement law. Lambda m into T is constant. That formula you need to use. Lambda m into T equals to constant. That formula you have to use. Okay. Now here, check it. What it says, that the electric heater emits 1500 watt of thermal radiation. Assuming the coil of the heater radiates as the black body, determine its temperature. There is a normal heater, the power of the heater is supplied, and you are asked to assume that the coil of the heater acts as a black body. Then determine its temperature. Then which formula will you use? Anyone? Quickly, which formula will you use?
Stephen-Boltzmann.
Stephen-Boltzmann. Why is it so?
Because the sigma is given, and we can from energy we can get the power P by A, and
okay.
We have to determine temperature.
Right. So point is here the total power is supplied. This power 1500 watt doesn't mean that is the power for a particular frequency range or wavelength range. That is not supplied. Power means the total power. Total power means covers all frequency or wavelength. Therefore, our formula should be Stefan's Boltzmann law. That is, E is our intensity. Don't think E is we are writing as energy. E is our intensity. In some books, I is written, but you are familiar with I, or you are familiar with association of I with current. That's why I am writing E. So E equals to sigma T to the power 4. E is the intensity of radiation. Temperature you need to estimate, but E is not supplied. Rather, P is supplied. Here, this is your P. But we know that intensity can be converted into power easily, because what is intensity? Intensity means total energy per unit time per unit area. Now, total energy per unit time is nothing but power. So it is power by area, that is intensity. So intensity means power by area, because intensity is energy per unit time per unit area, and energy per unit time is nothing but power. So intensity is power by area. So this given as sigma T to the power 4. That means here P is supplied, A is supplied also 0.03 meter square, sigma is supplied, estimate T. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Absolutely,
okay.
sir.
Okay.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Okay, okay. Thank you. Okay, so if we put the values, P is supplied, P is 1500, put the value of P. Sigma is given as 6 into 10 to the minus 8 SI unit, put it. A is supplied as 0.03 meter square SI unit, so just write it and calculate it. We'll get the T. Simple. Only you need to understand which formula we have to use. Another quick example. A wire of length 1 meter, radius 1 millimeter is heated by electric current to produce 1 kilowatt radiant power. You observe here, they are giving out the power, that means the output power. That's why you need not to bother about the efficiency, because directly output power is supplied. Treating the wire as the perfect black body and ignoring any end effect, estimate the temperature of the wire. Similar problem, just like the previous case. Power is supplied, sigma is given. You have to estimate temperature. That means P equals to sigma A T to the power 4. That is our formula. P is supplied as 1 kilowatt, that is 10 to the power 3 watt. Sigma is 5.67, 10 to the minus 8. This is the actual value of sigma. Just remember 5678. 5.67 into 10 to the minus 8. Just remember 5678. SI unit. Now A is not directly given. Rather, it's the length and radius of the wire is supplied. Now, how a wire looks like? This is your wire, just like a cylinder. So use the formula for cross section area of a wire, 2 pi RL. So A will be 2 pi RL surface area. This surface area is required. You observe it says ignoring the end effect. That means we are ignoring this area and this area. We are ignoring this area. So we have only considered the area marked like this. So this area is 2 pi RL. R and L are supplied. R is 10 to the power minus 3 meter, that is 1 millimeter, and L is given 1 meter. 1 meter. So put the value, you get the area. P is given. A you have estimated, sigma is known, 5.67 into 10 to the minus 8 SI unit. Put those values and estimate it. my suggestion, before you try to solve the assignment, do one calculation at least with this type of problem, because you need to handle power as 1/4. So use your calculator once to check whether you can estimate those things or not. Now, a different type. So what two types we have discussed? First type, frequency or wavelength of the radiation is supplied, power is supplied, you have estimated number of photons emitted per second. Second type of problems where power is supplied, you have to estimate temperature, so you have directly use Stephen's law. Somehow A is given or A you have calculated, and from the knowledge of A, and that means area and power, you have estimated the temperature from Stephen's-Boltzmann law. So these are the two types we have discussed. The third type, what it says, at what wavelength does a room temperature object emit maximum thermal radiation? Now note it down. Here temperature is supplied and you are asked at what wavelength the object emits maximum thermal radiation. In the previous questions, there was nothing mentioned, there's no mention about peak, there was no mention about maximum, but here it says maximum thermal radiation. Maximum thermal radiation means, we know the radiation looks like this, the radiation pattern, intensity pattern, it attains a maximum at a certain wavelength, we have to estimate that wavelength. So which law will you follow? Which law will you follow?
Displacement law.
Wien's displacement law. Very good. Wien's displacement law. Because Wien's displacement law is the only law where the peak is involved. Peak is involved. Maximum intensity is involved. Maximum power is involved. It's the only law. So here, according to the question, you have to estimate that wavelength which corresponds to maximum thermal radiation. That means Wien's displacement law. And we know Wien's displacement law says that lambda m into T is constant. It says that lambda m into T is constant. That value of the constant is 2.9 into 10 to the power minus 3 mk. My suggestion before the examination, written examination, remember this value, because sometimes the examiner doesn't mention the value in the question paper. This value, the constant value, 2.9 into 10 to the power minus 3 SI unit, meter Kelvin. So this is your Wien's displacement law. Temperature is supplied 34 degrees centigrade, but in the, whenever we talked about the intensity pattern, whenever we have discussed temperature, I have mentioned the temperature in Kelvin scale. So you need to convert it into Kelvin scale first. That means T1 is 34 plus 273. So T1 will be 307 Kelvin. So temperature is known, calculate lambda m, easy, 2.9 to the minus 3 by T1, T1 is 34 degrees centigrade, that means 34 plus 273, that is 307 Kelvin, put them, you get the value. So wavelength is this, first part done. Next question, to what wavelength, what temperature must we heat it until its peak thermal radiation is in the red region of the spectrum? Now, what you have to do? You observe just the opposite thing. Again, peak is involved. Peak thermal radiation is involved. That means it must be Wien's displacement law. But in the previous question, temperature was supplied. You have to estimate the wavelength corresponding to maximum peak. Here, you have to estimate the temperature corresponding to the red region of the spectrum. And we have discussed that the only wavelength that is visible is the peak. So peak is visible. So here it says that red region of the spectrum is observed. That means this is lambda m. So lambda m is actually supplied in the second part. Lambda m is supplied, you have to estimate the temperature. Just the reverse question. So lambda m is supplied 650 nanometer. That means 650 into 10 to the minus 9 meter. That is supplied. You have to estimate temperature. Easy. So you will directly estimate it in terms of Kelvin. Okay. Third part. How many times more thermal radiation will the body at higher temperature emit with respect to the one at lower temperature? Which one is higher, which one is lower? First one was 307. This one, that means T2 is higher. T2 is higher than T1. Okay, that is noted. Then what you have to estimate? How many times more thermal radiation will the body at higher temperature emit with respect to the one at lower temperature? What does that mean? It simply means that first we will calculate the total radiation at T2. We will find out total radiation at T1 and we'll check how many times this one is larger than this one. That means we'll first estimate the total thermal radiation at temperature T2, which is just sigma T to the power 4. That means it will be, oh, I have written probably. So better to write it. We know E equals to sigma T to the power 4. Therefore, the total intensity at temperature T2 will be sigma T2 to the power 4. Similarly, total intensity at temperature T1 will be sigma T1 to the power 4. Now find the ratio. Find the ratio. E2 by E1. Sigma cancel out. So you get this value. So that is this many times more thermal radiation the body at higher temperature emit with respect to the lower temperature. So it is all the questions are related to Wien's displacement law. And the last part we have used Stephen's law. Because in the last part we only bother about the total thermal radiation. We are not bothering about a peak. So this is the other type of problem. The last type of problem that calculate the number of modes in a cube of 2 centimeter side in the wavelength range this. Instead of asking the number of modes, they may ask you what is the intensity of light energy, power of light energy. That means you directly need to use Planck's law, but the calculation is cumbersome. That's why generally that type of problems are not asked. Rather, they ask you number of modes. What is number of modes? Whenever we have derived Planck's law, remember when you derive Planck's law, I told you that to estimate U nu d nu, we require two things: number of simple harmonic oscillator within the frequency range nu plus nu to nu plus d nu, and average energy of each. We require average energy of each atom, average energy of each oscillator, average energy of each electromagnetic wave, and we require total number per unit volume. This is the total number per unit volume in nu d nu. Okay, this if you are dealing with atoms, then this is the number of atoms per unit volume. If you are dealing with electromagnetic waves, then this is the number of modes per unit volume. Okay, so here we have to estimate the number of modes in a cube of this. They are not asked you, the question is not that number of modes per unit volume. The question is directly the number of modes. That means you need to multiply the volume with this one, because this one is the number of modes per unit volume, number of oscillators, number of atoms per unit volume. Think them as same. From the perspective of numericals, treat them as same. this is just some number, whether it is the number of atoms, number of oscillators, number of electromagnetic waves, number of modes, number of frequencies, whatever is the number per unit volume. That should be understood. This is the number per unit volume. That's all. And it is only applicable for a particular frequency range. Very good. So we need to find out then first the number of modes per unit volume. Now, okay, better to write it in this way first. We had nu d nu. If you remember or you check your copy, nu d nu, I told you that we need to borrow it from statistical mechanics, because statistical mechanics already has this formula, the number per unit volume formula. That value is 8 pi nu square by c cube d nu. That is the formula. C is velocity of light in free space, and nu is the frequency, and d nu is the frequency range, change in frequency, 1 kilohertz to 1.01 kilohertz. That is d nu. That is 0.01 kilohertz is the d nu. But as per the question, wavelength is supplied, so we cannot directly use this formula. We need to convert, and we know nu equals to c by lambda. That means d nu equals to actually minus c by lambda square d lambda. So I am taking mod value, magnitude I am taking, because as I told you earlier, the negative sign here symbolizes that with increasing frequency wavelength decreases, and we know. So put the values here, 8 pi by c cube. Instead of nu square, we can write c by lambda square, that is c square by lambda square. Then d nu means c by lambda square d lambda. So if you put those values, n lambda d lambda will be in terms of wavelength now. That is again, don't bother about what is written. Only bother, this is the number per unit volume. Only it is written in terms of wavelength. Previously, this one was written in terms of frequency. So if the frequency is supplied, we can use this formula. If wavelength is supplied, we can use this formula. Okay, this is the toughest type of problem that can be asked in black body radiation that I am discussing now. So whoever be the question setter in whatever university, if the maximum tough numerical problem is asked, that will be this problem. So don't worry about it. It's the maximum case scenario. So n lambda d lambda can be written as this in terms of wavelength. Now you observe what is supplied. D lambda, we require d lambda, we require lambda. But what is given? Wavelength range is supplied, and within this wavelength range you need to calculate the number of modes. How will you do this? Question is, you have to find out the total number of modes. Total number means this is number per unit volume. How will you get the total number? We'll multiply with area, no problem. Length or one side of the cube is supplied. This is your cube. One side of the cube is given. This is 2 centimeter. So total volume we can estimate for this cube. We'll multiply it with n lambda d lambda. We'll get the total number of modes, not per unit volume. But the problem lies here, that we have to find out the number of modes within this range. How will you estimate within this range? This is the number of modes per unit volume when wavelength changes from lambda to lambda plus d lambda. So how will you get it? Integrate it. Just integrate it. If you want to get the total number of modes within this frequency wavelength range, just integrate it. So integrate it, 8 pi by lambda to the power 4 d lambda. Your range is 4995 angstrom to 5005 angstrom. This is your wavelength range. So if you integrate it, 8 pi remains 1 by lambda to the power 4, that means minus 3 lambda cube. Put the range lambda 1 to lambda 2. and get the result. So this is your n. But this is not the final answer. This is the number of modes per unit volume. So you need to multiply the volume with it. Now, what is the volume of the cube? Thus, one side is 2 centimeter. That means one side is 2 into 10 to the minus 2 meter. One side. So volume will be just cube it. So this is your total volume. So multiply the volume with n, you get the total number of modes within this wavelength range. Okay, this is the actual process. This is the actual process. This process should be utilized. So if you look into any book, this is the process they will mention. Now I am telling you a shortcut. I am telling you the shortcut for the same type of problem. Or here also you can do. You observe that if I need to estimate directly from this formula without integration, if I want to avoid integration, then what I require, lambda is required, d lambda is required. None of them is given in the question. In the question, range is supplied. Lambda 1 and lambda 2 are supplied. That's why the general process is to do integration. But if I want to use this formula, then I require lambda and d lambda. Now check it very carefully, the range. You observe what is the gap between these two? What is the gap? 4995 angstrom to 5005 angstrom. Gap is 10 angstrom only. Now, isn't it? It is 10 angstrom. Now, what is the average wavelength? What is the average wavelength of this? Add them, divide by 2, or without doing that, you can write it as 5000 angstrom. Now, note it down that d lambda is very, very small with respect to lambda. D lambda is very small with respect to lambda. In that case, you can avoid integration. So what will do? You will find out d lambda, that means the change in wavelength. You are given a range. From that range, find out the change in wavelength. Find the average wavelength. If you observe that d lambda is very, very small with respect to the average wavelength, you can skip the integration. Rather, you just put the value here directly. 8 pi lambda will be your 5000 angstrom and d lambda will be 10 angstrom. My suggestion after the class, do it by yourself and check whether you are getting the same result or not, or what changes are you getting. If the changes is very small, you can avoid integration, because ultimate goal is to estimate the answer. You have to estimate the number of modes. So whatever process you follow, always try to find your convenient process. So same question, without integration, the blackboard has a cavity of cubical shape. Determine the number of modes of vibration per unit volume. They are asking per unit volume, so no need to multiply with the volume. Only the problem, integration. So if I use the same trick as before, n lambda d lambda will be our 8 pi by lambda to the 4 d lambda. We have estimated it, 8 pi by lambda to the 4 d lambda. So this is our formula for number of modes per unit volume. Now the actual process says that we need to integrate it to get the total number of modes per unit volume. But instead, what we will do? Again, we will find out d lambda. What will be d lambda here? 20. D lambda will be 20 angstrom, and average wavelength 6000 angstrom. Again, you observe 20 angstrom is much smaller than 6000 angstrom. So we directly put the values. 8 pi lambda is 6000 angstrom. Angstrom means 1 angstrom means 10 to the power minus 10 meter. So 6000 angstrom means 6000 into 10 to the minus 10 to the power 4. Be careful. That's why I'm taking the assignment, so that you can do it by yourself with your calculator. D lambda 20 angstrom, that is 20 into 10 to the power minus 10. Put them, you get the result without doing the integration. Simple process. Okay, now if you have any query, ask me.